Welcome back, everybody. This is the Provoke Total Fitness Podcast. I'm Matthew.
I'm Walter.
And in today's podcast, so this is week 14 now, so thanks for joining us for 14 weeks already, guys. So in today's podcast, we're going to be talking about our competitions and our experiences with competitions, and more specifically, why we competed, what we learned from it, and how we actually became better because of it. And not just in the sense of fitness, but overall life, how we actually improved our lives because of what we learned from our competitions.
Yeah.
So I'll start. I've done 4 competitions now, so technically 5, but I wouldn't classify the first competition I did at 16. It was kind of just, did for fun kind of thing. So I did 4 competitions that I took really seriously. The first one I did when I was 18, and first time ever competing with a coach at that point. So again, like I mentioned, when I was 16, I did a show just to kind of, prove to myself that after working out for this period of time, I would do a show no matter how I looked, and I would get up on stage and, do what I wanted to do. I didn't really take the diet seriously. I didn't really know what I was doing. I wasn't lifting properly. I wasn't eating properly. So I showed up on stage, just looking skinny and, a little fluffy, but whatever. The first competition I actually did at 18, I hired a coach to actually bring me through the process so I could learn what it actually takes for a pro bodybuilder to do it, and learn from him, how to properly diet, how to properly train, how to actually go through that whole cycle of, 3 months of dieting to actually get to the end of that competition period. So I did that, and that was quite an experience. I won't get into it just yet. But anyway, so I did that, and then I did a competition the next year at 19, which was the Toronto Pro Show. Both Walter and I competed at that one together. And then I competed at the show last year, which was a classic physique show. So that was the first time doing classic physique, and that's what I switched over to and I really like. So that's what I do now. So that's just a little bit of background on what my competitions were.
Okay, I was later. Um, I think my first show was at 60. Second was at 61, and third was at 62, or 61 and 61. I'm not sure.
It was 61, 61.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Very weird experience. And Matthew helped me with the first. He's helped me throughout. We worked together essentially, but. A lot of it, learning about dieting, learning about everything that's involved with workout, how much cardio, how little cardio, all those things that are necessary to do the job was important to learn. I think I did it basically to prove something to myself. I'm a big advocate of age doesn't matter. And let's be realistic, it does to a certain extent, but I don't think it should be something that holds you back. Mm-hmm. So that's why I decided to compete. I mean, certainly when I was in my 30s and 40s and I wanted to get big, I thought about competition and went, no, that's impossible. And so I set the goal for myself. Also, it was a matter of, I knew that if I was going to achieve my best physical self, I had to have a date. I had to have something that I was looking at as the goal set to work towards. If I just go, I'm going to go to the gym and I'm going to get fit, I will not achieve as much as I will if I have that goal ahead of me. So I set it. And then it's funny because the first and second time I won and I didn't learn as much. The third time I lost, and it was a great experience because that was the time that I paid for judges.
Their review, the video review.
Whatever they say. What is it?
Video review.
Yeah, the video review. I paid for the video review, and a judge saying this is weak, this is strong, this is weak, and that sort of thing, and was then able to really say, okay, now my new goals are.
Yeah.
Which was a big, important thing. Mm-hmm. So, but basically, it was to hold myself accountable. It was important that I say that I'm going to do the first show, and then I
Right.
fell in love with doing the shows,
Mhm.
and I'll
Yeah.
keep doing.
Yeah, my why to getting into bodybuilding was when I first started working out with a friend. So this was, I think it was 15. I had a good friend of mine who, he introduced me to like the idea of like the Greg Plitz of the world, the Jeff Sides, Z's, like all those type of guys, these really good looking guys that, at 15 you look up to because it's like they're getting all the girls, they look super good, they're getting all the sponsorships, they're making money off of how good they look, and like everybody wants to be that person, right? So he introduced me to that, and this was right at the time that Jeff Side was just about to compete, and he actually got the pro card for being the youngest men's physique pro ever. I think he was like 18 at the time that he got this pro card, 18 or 19. So I'm looking up to that at 15, going like, shit, if he can do it, I can do it, right? So that's kind of where that idea all started from, was saying I want to get a pro card at some point. Again, this was like right when I started working out, so I didn't really look at that and be like, this is my goal from here on out. I just kind of was like, that'd be kind of cool. And then I kind of went my own way in terms of I did Olympic lifting for a bit, I did boxing and all that stuff, and I did powerlifting. And it wasn't until I actually injured myself powerlifting, and like 6 months after that period, when I ended up moving down to Toronto and meeting Walter at the Good Life, and a friend, our coworker we worked with, who was actually a competitor, that idea really got into my head, because like I can't compete in powerlifting anymore because I hurt my back and I'm not going to be as strong anymore, and I could just re-injure myself, or I could go into bodybuilding, try to build up my body as best as I can, and still try to achieve what I wanted to when I first started working out, and make that my noodle. So that's kind of where that whole idea started for me. It was because I had the influence of these coworkers I was working with, plus the fact that I wasn't able to do what I originally wanted, which was the powerlifting. So I'm going to go back to the original idea, which was try to do bodybuilding shows. And like Walter said, I mean, if anybody knows powerlifters, we kind of just eat whatever. It's kind of like you just go and you're like, oh, there's four hamburgers on the plate, and I'm going to eat all of them. I'm not even going to, because, I just got to eat as many calories to get as strong as possible. That was my mentality with powerlifting. So, I mean, I wasn't overweight, but I was like, I had a lot more body fat than I had ever wanted to have at that point. So, this was the point where I ended up hiring a coach that our coworker had worked with, and it was shocking to figure, like, with him, it's like Walter said, you pick a date and that's what you're aiming for, and you're gonna cut down to that point and look as best as you can for that date. And I thought that was gonna hold me really accountable, which it did. And I didn't realize, though, like going from eating whatever you wanted to actually being on a strict diet, still even trying to gain weight was really hard. Like, instead of eating hamburgers and pizzas to gain weight, you're now eating chicken and rice, and it was hard to force feed myself to eat that. So that was one side of it, and then when you're actually dieting for the shows, it's a completely other side, because again, I'm not used to being hungry at this point. So when I got hungry, I was hungry, and I remember for almost like 6 weeks out from a show is when the impact of it really started to hit me, where I wasn't, I couldn't even like hold a conversation without getting angry because I was so hungry all the time. Or, 4 weeks out from a show, almost passing out on a Stairmaster because, this is the most amount of cardio I've ever done in my life, like 2 hours of cardio a day, and then barely eating any food plus the workout. Like, it was just something I was never, I never thought I'd be doing. But what got me going through that was the fact that it's kind of like Walter said, it's like how far you can push your body and how dedicated I could be. And, I set this goal, I'm going to reach that goal no matter what. And that's kind of what I loved about bodybuilding and why I got into it in the first place, was because, even after 2 hours on a step mill, like split up an hour in the morning, an hour after the workout, plus a 2 hour workout, plus you're only eating 1,800, 1,900 calories that day, and you're just, you're running on 4 hours of sleep, and you still have a full day of clients to train. It's like you want to basically collapse and give up, but it's whether, you know, champions are made from the people that are able to push forward through that. And that's pretty much the why as to why I love it and why I got into it.
It's funny talking about dieting. I remember with my second show, a very, very dear friend of mine got married 2 weeks before the show.
Oh, yeah. That's right.
I had to go to the reception, and she had arranged the food for me so that I would get one serving of the salmon meal. And then we got there, and the food was not a plate of food. It was many small plates of food. So my piece of salmon was maybe that big. And I was so hungry and so angry that I broke my diet. And then I was angry because I broke my diet. So there was no way of winning. And I think I should just not have gone to the wedding. But that would have been a horrible thing to do to someone I've known for 25 years. But the dieting process is probably the hardest part of it all. There's an artistic joy in learning the poses, learning your particular sequence of poses, and getting ready for. I mean, I love lifting, so that's not a problem. But the regimentation, the strict regimentation of the diet is really difficult. And I think that's something that proved part of me to myself as time has gone by. The fact that I can have the strength, more or less, unless I go to a wedding, to hold myself to the diet is really helpful. I mean, I remember when I first started exercising with weights, not aerobically, I would work out and then I'd have a protein shake. But I would think I worked out really hard, so I'll put a peanut butter, I'll put a banana, I'll throw in some strawberries, I'll do this, this, and this, and then why am I not losing any weight?
Yeah.
So I think, and we've talked about this before, that being aware of what you're actually eating, that disguising it as a shake is a mistake to my mind.
Yeah.
But that learning process was really important to the whole thing.
Yeah.
And I can hold myself accountable now on a much better stand, even within quarantine, to stick to a decent level of body fat.
Yeah, and I think that's the best part about bodybuilding is because when you compete, I'm saying this, I'm going to go into another story after this, but what I'm saying right now is just with bodybuilding, when you compete, you learn how to eat properly. You learn how your body reacts to certain foods. You learn how it reacts to too much or too little. You learn how you react to high-intensity cardio versus low-intensity cardio. You learn how you react to 8 hours of sleep versus 4 hours of sleep, like all these sort of things, right? And it's very transferable to, if you're not competing, if you gave up competing, it's still very transferable to how you perform in life. Because let's say you go into work, are you better performing at work if you have a sugary snack or if you have, a kale salad with chicken? Like, I mean, obvious example, but obviously you're going to perform better with kale and chicken. And what I didn't realize for myself when I first started into all this was, again, I was just following my coach's diet, and I realized, I was like, oh, white fish and, my pre-workout used to always be like 2,000 calories of like spaghetti and beef and tomato sauce and tons of Parmesan cheese, right? Powerlifting. And then I switched over with this coach, and he's like, you're going to have 6 ounces of white fish. You're going to have like avocado or something, or some sort of fat, and some sort of green. There was no carbs in it, really. And I was like, I'm gonna die through this workout. I can't do that. And then I realized over time, like, my body adapts to the point where I don't really need carbs to actually work out. I mean, obviously to perform the best, it's helpful. But I realized my body before a workout, if I have higher fats, obviously the insulin, fats blunt insulin release, so you have more energy throughout the workout. So those carbs are slowly digesting and slowly breaking down throughout the workout. And like, again, I was a personal trainer. Like, I knew this stuff, but I didn't until I actually applied it to myself, where I was like, oh shit, that's how that works. And but I already knew it, you know, like it was just interesting to see like all these concepts that we, you know, you learn as a personal trainer, you learn going through these courses or whatever it is, you learn about the body. You don't, you know, you apply it and then it actually becomes a real thing, not just this concept of, you know, yeah, it blunts instant release, but you don't actually know how it makes you feel. And it like being able to describe that now to a client is incredible because now they're able to come back to me and be like, wow, I didn't even realize I can do this and I'll feel better than doing that and that. And I was like, well, that's just how it is, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there's definitely that. The other side of the story, though, is both Walter and I, and any bodybuilder could probably attest to this. After your first show, you probably are. You already know where I'm going with this. Like I said, now I can diet totally fine. I can reverse out a show fine because I've just done it and it feels great now, and I know what it makes my body feel like. After the first show, I that idea of rewarding yourself for 3 months, 4 months of hard work. Um, you know, and typically what it says is you have this massive cheat meal at the night of the show, and then the next day you just go completely off diet and have a huge cheat day. Then you go back on diet. Typically, a first time competitor, that doesn't usually end well because you're not used to the feeling of your body trying to reset. You're like, your body, your leptin levels are so low. You're just like, I need to eat and eat because your body's just telling you, I'm not full yet. So you're at the end of the show. You've done the show, so it's like I can eat whatever I want now. And you know, for the first week, you still have abs and you still have leanness and you still have veins popping everywhere. So you're like, I'm just going to keep doing this until the second week ends and your body starts, your metabolism starts to actually kick in. And all of a sudden, those abs turn into a beer belly. And instead of being, you know, stage weight, you're now back over what you were when you started the diet. And then you get really depressed and it goes into this whole cycle and spiral.
Well, I laughed because I thought about that first cheat meal after the first show and going to Mandarin and just stuffing myself and feeling so awful for 2 days afterwards as my
Yeah.
body tried to acclimatize itself to this rush of bad fat and too much
The
wheat
amount of
and
salt.
everything. It was horrible.
Yeah.
And MSG. And
Yeah.
I don't usually do MSG. So it was really, really bad. And I don't want to get into trouble here. I'm sure it's very good to go there once in a while, but you still have to control yourself. And I did not control myself in the least. And I think I had like 6 plates. And half of those were ice cream and yogurt.
Yeah.
So it was bad. But getting back on track, it's difficult because you still look good, so you continue to eat badly. Not to the extent of that first meal, but it's just going, okay, I can have fries. I still look good. I can have fries. I can have
I
whatever.
can have a cookie here
And
and
then
there.
you wake up and you have to start fighting. And I know that's something that, you know, quarantine has not been good in that respect to a certain extent. I've been more controlled than I would have been, but I still know that I'm going to come out of this whole thing a little heavier than I should be.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting with that because I mean I've talked about my issues with the body dysmorphia and you know I'm going through and looking like the best you've ever looked like to 2 weeks later destroying that entire look. It really fucks with your head. And there's a ton of people that go through the same thing where they're just like, I give up, like I'm never gonna be, and you try to get back on diet, but then you're just like you can't hold yourself to that diet, so you end up cheating again, or you end up, you know, a friend takes you out for dinner or something, and they're like, "Don't worry about this." You have one, and then you keep eating, but at the same time you're eating, you're telling yourself this is a horrible idea, and you hate yourself, and you're just gonna get fat, and like you can't even enjoy it anymore. But again, your body's just at the point where it's, you know, it's hungry, it's hungry, it's hungry, even though you're not. So you just keep eating until you're at the point where, what Walter said, you're you feel like shit for 2 days because you ate so much. And that's really hard to get out of, especially, from my past with the body dysmorphia. Um, so I've had people say to me, I've had my parents, I've had my ex-girlfriends say to me, like, why the hell are you going to compete again if this is how you ended up the first time? And I honestly, it's an interesting, I don't have a good answer for it aside from the fact I want to, because I love competing. I love how shitty it makes me feel in terms of, waking up at 4 a.m. to do an hour of cardio, then to do a full day of work, then to do weights, and then do another hour of cardio, all on like the lowest calories that I've had in my life. There's something so incredible to me that I'm able to push my body to do this. But not even my body, just my mental state to be able to get over that hurdle of you can fucking do this, even if I have to, complain, even if I have to argue, even if I break down in front of Walter and be like, fuck this, man, I don't want to do this anymore. And then he's just there, he's like, what do you mean? You got one more set, let's go. um, and it's that idea where it's like, those little 5 minute lapses you have throughout the day, if you're able to get through those for 14 weeks, 16 weeks straight, like the power you're able to have over your mind and body afterwards is incredible. And like I said, you learn from your mistakes and you get better. Obviously not great, but every show you do, every diet you do, you come better. You learn your body better. You learn how to diet better. You learn how to reverse out of it better. And that's what I love about it.
Yeah, it makes me think, the famous Les Brown speech about the guy who goes to the guru on the beach and the
Yeah,
guru
yeah,
pulls him under the water and stuff. And then he talks about, Beyonce going 2 days without food during a movie shoot and stuff like that. If your reason is strong enough, you can work through an amazing amount. We as humans can work through an amazing amount. And
yeah,
I think one of the things that going through these competitions has proven to me is that I do have the power to be able to push myself further than I ever expected. I have more strength within me than I ever expected. And that to me is an amazing bonus to the whole thing. Yes, it's painful. Yes, it's a pain. And, having a glass of water sitting next to someone who's having chocolate, at the end of the night is really difficult because I want that chocolate. But if I can control myself and hold myself to it and get to the goal that I want to get, then I've proven something to myself. And for that, it's well worthwhile. And it's one of the reasons why I continue to. Besides the ability to say to other men my age, see, you can do it, because that's a driving force for me. But again, there we have a big why that would drive me forward, as opposed to just, nothing else to do. No one would do this for that reason.
Yeah, exactly.
So to learn the kind of resolve that you have inwardly is an amazing gift, and bodybuilding has given that to me.
Yeah. It is incredible. I started this whole thing because I wanted a pro card, and I think I've told Walter before, even if I don't get a pro card, I mean, obviously it's amazing. It would be a great goal to reach. It's just, again, I'm not going to stop doing these because of how I want to be able to push myself to be better every year, to be better every show, whatever it is. I mean, I only compete once a year at the moment. But yeah, that's what it is. I want to be better to myself every time I get up on that stage. I want to be better to the people around me every time I get up on stage. And what I mean by that is you become an asshole when you compete. I mean, you're hungry, you're tired, all that stuff. And, the first show I did, I was basically a ghost. I was basically a whole shell of a person. I was an asshole for like 8 weeks because at that point, that's when I started getting hungry and getting tired and felt like I couldn't do it from the diet. Second show I did, I was better. It got maybe down to 4 weeks. The last show I did, it was literally only the last week that I was like, okay, ex-girlfriend of mine, I was like, just give me like the week off from being a boyfriend. Just let me sleep on the couch. Just don't talk to me. Just give me a little bit of space. If I ask you how your day is and then I completely zone out. Like, just give me a little bit of a break here. And, they understand, right? My ex was great with that. Like, she put up with the shit for the first one and surprisingly stuck with me for the second and the third one. And I was just like, God damn, that's pretty awesome. Um, but it's again, like, you learn how to become better every time, and it's not just, and you learn how to diet better. You learn how to mentally prepare yourself better. You learn how to become stronger to deal with life, because nothing out there, nothing in the real world is going to slow down for you or is going to stop for you just because you decided to put your body through this. This is your
Yeah.
choice to do this. Your client doesn't have to give you any sort of break because, if they're yelling at you and you're just like fucking spaced out because you're so hungry. No, snap out of that shit and do your job. You chose to do this. It's your responsibility to still do your job and to do this. If you can't do both, then you got to give it up, right? So to be able to push yourself to that extreme and still be able to function and go through life and still try to you know, make progress on goals outside of bodybuilding is something to me that's just, it makes me feel like, it's gonna sound weird. It makes me feel like a god, honestly. Like, I'm sorry, it's like the worst possible thing to say, but I get so productive when I start cutting. Like, when I start cutting, I guess because again I'm eating healthier, my body's just regulating better. I have a goal I'm working towards. That goal then puts into play everything else. So for like 10 weeks, 8 to 10 weeks, everything in my life just becomes like a fucking product line of just putting out new things, in terms of, okay, I got this done, on to the next one, this done, on to the next one, this one, on to the next one. And then, you get to that end of the 2 week and you're like, okay, I can give myself a little bit of a break now, focus on what I need to focus on, which is the bodybuilding, and do that, and then get right back into it. And it's really helped me progress through my life and progress through my goals because of everything I learned with bodybuilding.
Yeah. And it's funny talking about who we become during those periods, and work, and how it can affect or not affect us is important to think about. I have two jobs, kind of. The first one that I did before I got into fitness was I was a cater waiter, and I set up events and I did that sort of thing. So I still do some catering work on the side. Gives me a chance to see my friends, make a little extra cash, whatever. But I know that if I'm doing a show a month and a half before the show, I have to quit. I have to say I'm not going to be able to do any kind of gigs for the next month and a half, 2 months, because I don't have that kind of control. When you're working in a fast-paced event thing, and they don't feed you necessarily until the end of the night, but you can't take food in because I'm working in a kosher event space. Um, you're going to pick up little bits and you're going to nibble on things as you go along, and that is no longer allowed. So I just have to say, no, I can't do the work because I will not have control of myself. On the other hand, in the gym, it's funny because several of our friends, when they come up to competition, will take 2 weeks off before the show. They will not work with their clients. They just hunker down, go to the work, do their workout, go home. I can't do that because if I'm going to be at home, I'm going to be going in the fridge. I need to be at work, even though it can be a little painful. And I do apologize to my clients and say, I'm going to be a little off for the next week, 2 weeks.
Right.
And they understand, as long as I'm not yelling at them, they understand. But I have to keep going into work until like 3 days before the competition, or that's how I screw up my diet.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty much the same. I will typically work up until the last week, and then like the 5 days before, I try. I tell my clients, and again, all of them are very understanding. I tell my clients, like, just a heads up, this is my plan for this week. I'm planning on taking Thursday and Friday off. I want to try to work up to Wednesday. I will have to let you know if you're not okay with this, then I'll schedule it with somebody else. If you are okay with me possibly canceling, 12 hours before on you, then by all means, let's do it. For the most, I haven't had one client that said, no, fuck you. It's always been, yeah, that's fine. And that's what it was. My last show, I ended up doing Monday, Tuesday, and then the Wednesday morning, was like the end of my water load period. So I was starting to cut out water so I could dry out. And I hadn't slept in like, I think I got like 2 hours of sleep the night before. I was starving because I was really trying to suck down for the show. I only gave myself 10 weeks to prepare because I wasn't even planning on doing the show. I just had photo shoots. Then 2 weeks after that, I was like, I'm going to do a show. So I was like zero carbs. I just had 10 grams of fat in my diet, and the rest was protein. So I walk into the gym, and my client texts me. She's like, it actually worked out perfectly because I got there for 6:45. She texted me at 6:50, being like, "Hey, I'm probably going to be a bit late. Do you have anybody as of 8 o'clock, or can we go till 8:30?" And I was like, "Hey, I'm not going to be here today. I'm going to have to go home," because I literally was about to pass out in the middle of the gym. Right? She was totally fine with it. She knew what I was going through. So it's things like that. As long as you, again, I learned what I'm like. So I mean, the next time I go into a show, I will have to take that full week off or whatever because it's I learned from the last show, and I don't want to do the disservice to my clients if I have to cancel last minute on them. But I mean, the first show I did, I was like 4 weeks out, and I was like that, and that's where I had to be. Like, the last 2 weeks of my show, I was basically dying, and I was struggling to get into work, and I was struggling to train clients for 8 hours a day or whatever it was, and I was absolutely useless. So that's where I have to draw the line versus where you're at.
Yeah.
But again, everybody's different. So
All that being said, looking forward to the next show.
We were just talking about this before we started the podcast. You're thinking what, September, October time maybe, if it allows it.
Well, I was thinking October to start off with.
Yeah.
And it would be good for me right now to say yes and start working towards it.
Yeah.
And
I think October would be fine
to work on.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, so this is the problem with the quarantine thing still is a lot of bodybuilders and bikini competitors and whatever are they're all up in the air because they don't know still if the show they picked is still going to happen. So it can be a bit distressing. But again, pick a date, even if the show never happens. I tell my clients this too: pick a date that you want to look good by, and you're going to try to look your best by that date. Don't try this.
I got to say, you're lucky. You have photo shoots on a regular basis.
Yeah, that's true.
For product sponsorship, and that forces you to go into a mini cut often.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't have that sort of thing, so I rely on the shows to be the reason why.
Yeah. I actually forgot to mention that. Yeah, that's a good point to bring up. Photo shoots are actually, again, like Walter said, if I didn't have photo shoots, I wouldn't be cutting. There's no point for me to try to diet because I want to gain more muscle and more size, right? So I just try to keep eating. But the benefit of these photo shoots is they actually keep me on track in the bulk and in the diet. Because a lot of the time, when you get to the peak of a bulk where you're just like, you're forcing food down, you don't want to eat the chicken and rice. So you tend to go for the crappier foods that are really calorie dense. And again, you're just like, I'm already fluffy. I'm already over, I'm already 14, 50% body fat. So, what's an extra little percentage? Because I can't see my abs at this point anyways. So you go for that. Whereas with the photo shoots, I have to stay in that like 12 to 14 range. So if I have a photo shoot in 4 weeks, 6 weeks, I can diet down to 8% body fat pretty quickly without much issue. And then that keeps me on track. So yeah, like Walter said, that's the benefit of not having to, space out between shows. With photo shoots, it's like if I have a photo shoot in June, then I'm like, okay, if it's June 20th, I got to start cutting 6 weeks before if I want to look lean. If I want to look like athletic, then I'll do 4 weeks before, whatever. And that keeps me steady on my bulks, and that keeps me steady on my cuts. And it's kind of a nice little ebb and flow of, not getting too high body fat, not getting super lean. So when I go into my next show, I still have the muscle and, I've already accustomed myself so I can actually have more food and I don't have to like kill myself to get that lean. So thanks for bringing that up. But yeah, that's a good point because with you, it's because you've tried before where, you know, you pick a date anyways and it's not a show. Do you stick to
Mhm.
that? Do you stick to that or?
Not as well, because you can't tell folks about it.
Right.
If I have a show and I tell my clients and I tell my friends, I have a show in October, this is the date, then it's cemented in a lot of minds. And I am a firm believer in, if you've decided you're going to do something, you better tell people. Because
Yeah.
if you're the only one who knows about it, you can backslide really easily.
Mhm.
Um, Whereas if I just make a decision that I'm going to, I need to lean out, so this is what I'm going to do, it doesn't have that effect. And I
Right.
can cheat more easily. I'm not going to say that my results aren't as good, or I don't still get results. I just don't get the results I do if I'm doing it for a particular show.
Right. Of course.
You know,
Yeah.
so
That's a good one.
what I should do is start booking photo shoots as well. You know, and just say I'm
Yeah.
going to be for such and such date.
Yeah. I mean, well, actually, to give you an idea, my girlfriend and I wanted to do a music festival this year in August, right at the start of August, which most likely won't happen now. And we had both planned on doing, you know, a little bit of a mini diet like the month before,
Mm.
just to kind of lean up for that, and then go on you know, go on a mini trip to like somewhere in Muskoka or something, just spend a few days near the lake or something. But yeah, it's like you said, when you don't have that set date, I mean, we may not have this now, so it's kind of like, oh well, I
Yeah.
guess I can still keep eating, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a big issue. Um, if you don't, you know, if so, there's some people that don't need that, and but I know a lot of people that need that date in mind to be like, okay, I have to achieve it by this point, right? It's like those clients that always say, I have 2 weeks to get in shape for a vacation. Great. Why didn't we start 6 months ago?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So, but yeah, that's pretty much it. That's the why. That's the how. That's kind of what we learned from it. Yeah, bodybuilding's great. People bash it. People always think we're arrogant and egotistical, just a little bit. But yeah, people don't
I,
until you
I
like
disagree entirely. I think most of us are doing it out of a sense of insecurity,
100%.
not about being egotistical. You
Yeah,
know.
that's probably what it is. I got into bodybuilding. I got into weightlifting because I was insecure.
Yeah.
I stayed in it because I was even more insecure. It made me more insecure.
Yeah.
I am better now, but yeah, it's until you go through it, you don't understand what somebody who bodybuilds goes through, right? And that's why I feel like within the fitness bodybuilding community, there's such a feeling of like kinship or uh, like man, what's it called?
Brotherhood.
Brotherhood. Yeah, that's it. Brotherhood. Yeah, and that's it. Because you know you get backstage and you're like, these are guys you're trying to compete against and win against. But the benefit of bodybuilding is all the work you did was before. You're on stage now. The only thing that you can really change is your diet, or is your, you know, is your posing and you know a little few tweaks here and there for the night show. So really, these guys are just trying to hype you up. They're trying to make sure that you know, oh, how did your diet go? How did your competition go? Or your, you know, have you competed before? What was your training like? You know, oh, here's my Instagram. Follow me. Let's stay in touch. Let's get a workout in some time, right? There's like this huge brotherhood in bodybuilding that's awesome because everybody knows what it takes to be there, and everybody respects each other because of that.
Yeah. When you walk off stage and someone who you're competing with says that you did your routine was good,
Yeah,
or asks you what the music was because it was really great that you chose. It's a little thing, but it's hard to choose the music that you're going to use for your posing routine. Um, but when you get that kind of compliments and regard from a fellow competitor, it really means something because they don't have to do that. They're trying. After watching Pumping Iron and watching Arnold work Lou Ferrigno, you know, you expect that they're all going to try and somehow psychologically ditch you,
yeah,
but they're not. You know, a lot of times what you get is really nice guys who are very supportive. And they're all
yeah,
there to help. They all want to know what your story is and how you got involved. And
yeah.
if
There's
so,
maybe one
it
or
was
two
good.
guys that are, you know, there's maybe one or two guys that are dicks, but for the most part, you know, you have 100 competitors at a show. Every one of them wants to know your story. Every one of them wants to be your friend.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
mean, that's the reality. I mean, you're going to, what percentage of guys are dicks? You know, in the world, I think there's a lot. but
Yeah.
it doesn't mean that they're sport specific.
Yeah. Yeah, and like talking about sport, I played rugby, I played hockey, all that sort of stuff. I like even after a rugby match, people are just like, "Oh man, you're a fucking beast, you're a tank." That tackle that you broke my nose on was awesome, like, shit like
Yeah.
that, right? Um, with that, you still get that here and there, but it's not like you're competing against each other at the moment. It's not like you're going to go into the middle of the game. Again, like I'm that type of person. I'm like, shit, dude, nice tackle or something like that, and they're like, what? Um, and you don't really get that ever. You get maybe one or two guys, and the rest are dicks until afterwards. Whereas with bodybuilding, it's like you get one or two dicks, and then the rest are really nice guys. And then afterwards, you're all really nice guys, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's pretty cool. Because again, it's the respect that you garner from each other for knowing what you went through and how far you had to push. I've dealt with guys who they did shows and they just had kids, like just had a baby like 4 weeks beforehand, and they still looked great. Or I had another guy I competed against who was just about to do, he was a special forces and was just about to be deployed on a 3-month tour doing top secret shit. But I'm like, so hold on, you're doing ruck march, you're training for bodybuilding, and you're doing like ruck marches every single day, and you're doing like what, like holy shit, how the hell? And then like you're like, okay, shit, if this guy can do this plus this, I should be able to do this for what I've been able to, plus, the lack of stuff I've been able to do kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's definitely cool. But that's pretty much it. That's pretty much all I got.
Okay.
So there it is. If you guys again have any questions, please let us know. Thank you again for the support, for watching us. It's already been 14 weeks, and that's pretty awesome.
Keep getting new
So
people.
yeah, I
Which is
got
great.
people reaching out to me on Messenger sometimes and Instagram sometimes, so that's awesome. We really appreciate you guys watching. So thank you again. If you have any questions, post them down below, DM us,
Yep.
whatever. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and we will see you next week.
Yep. Wash your hands. Stay safe.
Take care, guys.